Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Self-Study Mandarin. If you've ever wanted to express a plot twist or an unexpected result in Chinese, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to master one of the most important words in HSK4, qie. But before we dive into the magic of this word, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button down below, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with your fellow Chinese learning friends. It really helps the channel grow so we can keep making free Mandarin lessons for you. All right, are you ready? Let's get started. So what exactly is qie? In English, we often translate it as however, but, or yet. But in Chinese, it does something very special. It indicates a twist or an unexpected turn in a story. When you use qie, you are telling your listener, get ready, what I'm about to say is the exact opposite of what you expect. Let's see how it works. Let's look at the basic meaning and function. The golden rule for qie is this formula right here. Subject plus qie plus verb or adjective. You need to remember that qie is an adverb. It is used to indicate a turning point, a transition, or a contrast. It suggests the outcome is completely different from what was expected. While we translate it as but or however, its placement in a sentence is very specific, especially when you compare it to common conjunctions like 但是. And that brings us to the most important rule. Positioning is everything. Because qie is an adverb, it must come after the subject. It lives inside the clause, right between the person and the action. A very common mistake for English speakers is to put it at the beginning of a sentence, like the English word but. Look at the incorrect example. 妾他去了. This is completely wrong in Chinese. The correct way to say he went anyway or but he went is 他却去了. Subject first, then 却. Using 却 also gives your sentence a softer, more literary tone. It emphasizes the twist. For example, 我们想出去，天却下雨了. We wanted to go out, but unexpectedly it started raining. Notice how 天, the sky or weather, is the subject and 却 comes right after it. Now, how do we use 却 with other words? A classic and very common combo in Chinese is using 却 with 虽然 and 但是. When you use 虽然却但是, you are creating a very strong emphasis. Let's look at this emotional example. 虽然已经很多年了，但是我却忘不了他. Although many years have passed, I still, yet, can't forget him. Here is the secret. 但是 focuses on the logical change in the sentence, while 却 focuses on your unexpected feeling. Putting them together makes your Chinese sound incredibly natural. Let's break down this double contrast further. You can actually mix and match these words depending on how strong you want the contrast to be. Look at this chart with me. 1. The standard way, 虽然但是. Although he worked hard, he didn't pass the exam. This is just a basic logical fact. 2. The unexpected way, 虽然却. Although he worked hard, yet unexpectedly failed. Here we dropped 但是 and used 却. It highlights the surprise. The strongest way, 虽然但是却. Although he worked hard, but yet he failed. This is the strongest contrast, combining both logic and deep surprise. What if you don't want to use 虽然 or 但是 at all? Good news, you can use 却 completely on its own. This is called mastering implicit contrasts. When you use 却 alone, it stands strong. The contrast is implied. This is a very common written style used in literature and news to make the flow of the sentence elegant and concise. For example, 大家都同意了，他却不同意. Everyone agreed, but he didn't. See how clean that is? We didn't need to say 但是. The 却 does all the heavy lifting. All right, let's practice what we've learned. Imagine this scenario, the weather twist. Situation: you checked the forecast this morning and it said it would be sunny, but right now you look out the window and it's pouring rain. How would you complain about this in Chinese? you would say, 天气预报说是晴天，现在却下雨了。The forecast said sunny, but plot twist, it's raining now. Perfect use of 却. To wrap up today's lesson, let's look at the ultimate comparison, 却 versus 但是. If you memorize this chart, you will never make a mistake again. Word type, 却 is an adverb, 但是 is a conjunction. Sentence position, this is the big one. 却 goes after the subject, 但是 goes before the subject. Formal level, 却 feels slightly more formal and is great for written Chinese. 但是 is general and used heavily in spoken Chinese. Example, 他却没来, he yet didn't come, versus 但是他没来, but he didn't come. And there you have it, the magic of 却. You now know how to express unexpected twists like a native speaker.
虽然这个手机很便宜，质量却很好。虽然这个手机很便宜，质量却很好。
但是它的电池却用不了多久时间。但是它的电池却用不了多久时间。
虽然他每天都锻炼，身体却不健康。虽然他每天都锻炼，身体却不健康。
因为他总是熬夜，却不注意饮食。因为他总是熬夜，却不注意饮食。
虽然这件衣服很贵，他却非常喜欢。虽然这件衣服很贵，他却非常喜欢。
但是买回家后，他却一次都没穿。但是买回家后，他却一次都没穿。
虽然今天天气很冷，他却只穿衬衫。虽然今天天气很冷，他却只穿衬衫。
但是他觉得很热，却一点也不冷。但是他觉得很热，却一点也不冷。
虽然这家餐厅很远，我们却经常去。虽然这家餐厅很远，我们却经常去。
因为菜很好吃，价格却非常便宜。因为菜很好吃，价格却非常便宜。
虽然他学习很努力，成绩却不理想。虽然他学习很努力，成绩却不理想。
但是他没有放弃，却变得更认真。但是他没有放弃，却变得更认真。
虽然这份工作很辛苦，他却很满意。虽然这份工作很辛苦，他却很满意。
但是他的工资却比以前少了很多。但是他的工资却比以前少了很多。
虽然那个风景很美，游客却非常少。虽然那个风景很美，游客却非常少。
因为交通不方便，大家却不想去。因为交通不方便，大家却不想去。
虽然他已经道歉了，我却不想原谅。虽然他已经道歉了，我却不想原谅。
但是你心里却还是觉得很难过吧？但是你心里却还是觉得很难过吧？
虽然问题非常复杂，他却很快解决。虽然问题非常复杂，他却很快解决。
但是大家却都不相信这是他做的。但是大家却都不相信这是他做的。
虽然外面下着大雨，他却坚持出门。虽然外面下着大雨，他却坚持出门。
但是他带了雨伞，却还是全身湿透。但是他带了雨伞，却还是全身湿透。
虽然这本书很厚，我却看了一整天。虽然这本书很厚，我却看了一整天。
但是你却连第一章都还没有看完。但是你却连第一章都还没有看完。
虽然大家都很累了，老板却不休息。虽然大家都很累了，老板却不休息。
但是我们却不敢告诉他真实想法。但是我们却不敢告诉他真实想法。
虽然电影非常精彩，他却睡着了。虽然电影非常精彩，他却睡着了。
但是他醒来后却说电影很好看。但是他醒来后却说电影很好看。
虽然时间非常紧张，他却一点不急。虽然时间非常紧张，他却一点不急。
但是最后他却按时完成了所有任务。但是最后他却按时完成了所有任务。
大家都觉得好笑，他却在一旁哭泣。大家都觉得好笑，他却在一旁哭泣。
他其实很伤心，你们却完全不知道。他其实很伤心，你们却完全不知道。
哥哥喜欢打篮球，弟弟却喜欢游泳。哥哥喜欢打篮球，弟弟却喜欢游泳。
他们是亲兄弟，爱好却完全不相同。他们是亲兄弟，爱好却完全不相同。
我准备了很多菜，客人却都没出现。我准备了很多菜，客人却都没出现。
你等了一整个晚上，却一直没等到。你等了一整个晚上，却一直没等到。
很多事情看起来简单，做起来却难。很多事情看起来简单，做起来却难。
你以为自己懂了，却总是做错事情。你以为自己懂了，却总是做错事情。
以前这里是森林，现在却变成城市。以前这里是森林，现在却变成城市。
环境改变了许多，我们却无法阻止。环境改变了许多，我们却无法阻止。
我想买红色的车，妻子却想要白色。我想买红色的车，妻子却想要白色。
你们讨论了很久，却还没有做决定。你们讨论了很久，却还没有做决定。
大家都同意这个计划，他却反对。大家都同意这个计划，他却反对。
他提出了新想法，老板却不接受。他提出了新想法，老板却不接受。
你们时间很少，却想去不同的地方。你们时间很少，却想去不同的地方。
大家假期都不多，却想要到处去玩。大家假期都不多，却想要到处去玩。
昨天天气还很热，今天却突然变冷。昨天天气还很热，今天却突然变冷。
气候变化这么快，我却忘了带外套。气候变化这么快，我却忘了带外套。
他明明知道答案，却故意不告诉我。他明明知道答案，却故意不告诉我。
他想让你自己想，你却只想要答案。他想让你自己想，你却只想要答案。
大家都去参加聚会，他却留在家里。大家都去参加聚会，他却留在家里。
他说自己生病了，我却看到他逛街。他说自己生病了，我却看到他逛街。
我给他打了10次电话，他却不接。我给他打了10次电话，他却不接。
他手机就在桌子上，却假装没听到。他手机就在桌子上，却假装没听到。
别人都在努力工作，你却在玩手机。别人都在努力工作，你却在玩手机。
我已经完成了任务，你们却还在忙。我已经完成了任务，你们却还在忙。
这个房间非常宽敞，光线却非常暗。这个房间非常宽敞，光线却非常暗。
我打开了所有窗户，却还是觉得暗。我打开了所有窗户，却还是觉得暗。
他表面上很高兴，心里却非常难受。他表面上很高兴，心里却非常难受。
我们一直安慰他，他却一句话不说。我们一直安慰他，他却一句话不说。